Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then this will help all the grandkids know a little bit more about you for future reference. The first thing I'm going to ask you to tell them is where were you born?
Where?
Yeah, where were you born?
I was born in Logan County in 1924.
In West Virginia, right?
Yes.
And when you were little, living in Logan County, did you live in a house or live in an apartment?
I lived in a house.
Yeah. What can you remember about the house? About your room? Did you have a room to yourself, or did you share it? What can you remember?
I shared it with my sister, my older sister, and it was a nice room.
Was it? What do you remember about what the house looked like?
Well, it was just a plain little house. We had, I think, 4 or 5 rooms. It was just a plain little house, and we had plain furniture. It was so far back that everyone lived about the same.
Yeah.
No one had more than the other.
Yeah. So there wasn't a big competition.
No.
So what do you remember liking to do for fun when you were little? What kind of games?
We played. We played with our dolls, and we played Jack Rocks, and in the evenings we would go out and play tag and catch lightning bugs and just played like most children do.
Yeah. Do you remember ever having any pets when you were little?
Oh yes, we had a pet pig one time. My grandfather gave us a little white pig. It was the smallest one in the litter of the big pig he had, and we played with it. It would follow us everywhere we went. And we had a little dog named Spot, a little white dog. He had a black spot right in the middle of his head, and we played with him for years. One night, we had an open fireplace, and one of the coals had fallen down on the floor and was smoking the floor a little bit, and he ran over and pulled at my mom's pajamas until she got up and saw what was wrong.
Oh my
He
goodness.
knew that our house would probably burn.
Oh my goodness. I did not know that. Now, were you in a fire? Did your house
No, my mother's apartment burned after I got married.
Oh, okay. So
I
that was a
wasn't
different time.
involved in that.
Oh, okay. So, do you remember any specific fads growing up? Like, were there any specific hairstyles or clothing or anything that stands out to you about when you were growing up that everybody?
Oh, when I was I was in about the 9th grade. Everybody wore page boy, which was a turned over. Your hair grew down to your neck and you turned it in. I wore one for years until I got older and hairstyles changed.
Aw. Do you remember what your favorite movie was growing up? Or your all-time favorite movie?
Well, when I was in about the 7th and 8th grade, we always went on Saturday afternoon to the movies and watched the musicals. Most of them were musicals. We had 2 theaters in our town, and one had cowboys all afternoon, cowboy movies, and that one had musicals.
Okay. So was that in Logan County, or was that after you moved to Welch?
Oh, that was after I moved into Welch.
Okay. So, How old were you when you lost your dad?
I was 10 years old when he died. I had gone to school. I had spent the night with my cousin and rode the school bus down to our school, and I went on into the school, and after a while she came and got me. They had told her what had happened. She was older than me, and she and I went home. And when I got to where I could see, we had to walk a little distance, not too far, but a little distance. And when I got where I could see our house, I saw the doctor's car sitting there. And so I knew it was bad.
And he had been killed in a mining accident, is that right? And how old were you at that time? 10? Is that what you said?
10. Mm-hmm.
And it was after that you guys moved to Welch, right?
Yeah. It
And
was about a couple of years after that we moved to Welch. I had an aunt that lived over in the Welch area, and she had lost her husband, and she wanted my mother to move over there, and they got an apartment, and she stayed with us a long time, but then she went out west. She was a professional cook, and she cooked for big hotels and that sort of thing. And she stayed a long time until she came back and got married, and she got sick, and they operated on her, and she did survive the surgery.
So you all then were raised basically by a single mother, which was kind of unusual on that day.
Yeah.
Was that pretty difficult, do you think, at that time for Noni to raise three
Well,
girls alone?
it was tough going, but everybody had about the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
How did she?
They gave her my daddy's Marine pension, and I don't know, we just survived. When we got old enough, I worked in a soda fountain, and my older sister worked in a 5 and dime store.
And what did your mom do?
Well, she didn't work for years, but then she went to work in a laundry.
Okay.
I don't know what she did. I don't know if she was on the presses or what, but she worked in a laundry for a while.
And what was I remember there was talk of a boarding house. What was the boarding house story?
You know, I think that was after I got married. I don't remember a whole lot about it.
So she wasn't running a boarding house when you were growing up?
I think she kept a few men that worked at the Norfolk and Western Railway, but I wasn't home, so I don't know a whole lot about them.
Yeah.
A few of the men, I knew Max and Davis and Leonard, and a few of them I met, but I don't.
But you had already gotten married at that point.
Yeah.
So how did you meet Pap Pap?
In the soda fountain.
Really?
Yeah, he came in, and he'd always get some kind of chocolate soda, or chocolate Coke.
Oh.
And I don't know, we just got, and I really didn't like him at first. He used to come in, and then he asked me if he could come down, and then we went to the movies one time. Mother liked him from the first time she met him.
Yeah.
And we just started dating. I was still in school.
I was going to
And
ask
of course,
you how
he
old
was
you were.
older than me. He had graduated, and he worked 2 jobs all the time he went to high school. He worked in the electrical shop for U.S. Steel, and he went to high school, and then, well, I don't know, we just got to dating, and
So,
we got married.
so how old were you when you got married?
I was, let's see, 17. I was almost 18.
Really? Okay. Well, so, we're going to move ahead a little bit, and I'm just going to ask you, what do you think that you've been the best at over the course of your life? What is some of the things that you think that you've been good at?
I don't think.
You know what I think? I think that you've always had the gift of hospitality. I think that you've always had a real gift for entertaining and making people feel welcome.
I like to do that. I like to have parties and invite people in.
You used to have a lot of parties. And
Yeah, I had engagement parties, and I had breakfasts, and I had a lot of parties. I don't know.
Y'all had Christmas parties at your house?
Yeah, I always had a Christmas party. I don't know how, but I did.
So, what do you think? What's the most difficult thing that you would say you've had about as far as getting older? What's the most difficult part of getting older? I guess losing James was the hardest thing that I remember. But what about in general even now? What's the thing that you find the most difficult about being almost 93?
I hate getting old and not being able to care for myself the way I used to.
Yeah.
I hate that.
And what would you say is the most rewarding thing about getting older? Or the best thing?
I don't think there's any good thing about it.
Well, we think it's good because you're still here with us. And I guess the last question I'm going to ask you is, what would you most like to be remembered for by your family and all your friends?
Oh, I don't know.
What would you like for people to say about you when you're not here?
Just remember me.
Just remember. Okay. I think people will have a lot of good things to say about you. But I think you're going to be around. I'll ask you this again in about 5 years, because I think you're going to live to be 100.
Oh, I hope not.
I think you are. So that's the question I'm going to leave you with that you can think about until I ask you again here in a few years. So
I don't think I'll live to be that old, but
you never say never, right?
Dr. Blades told me that one time. He said, "No, Miss Catherine, you're going to live to be 100." I said, "Well, Dr. Blades, I don't want to."
All right. Well, thank you for answering these questions. I think everybody's going to cherish it for many, many years to come.
I doubt it.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Well.